Call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Hope everybody had a happy holiday. This is the regular meeting of the Leonard Village Council. Today is Monday, January 14th, 2019. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a brief invocation. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege that we have in this country, and we ask that you guide and bless the decisions that we make. May they be in the best interest of the village. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you. Do we have a roll call for attendance of the Village Council?
President McDonald?
Here.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Here.
Mrs. Arundel?
Here.
Mrs. Swack? Here. Mr. Kennedy?
Here.
Okay. Note for the record that both officers, Clerk Cindy Grosskopf and Treasurer Judy Verse, are present. Council's received the minutes of the December 10th regular meeting for the Village Council. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If none, a motion to approve the minutes would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the meetings as meeting minutes as presented from December.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Okay. Moving on, council has before it an agenda for your approval. I would ask the council's indulgence. One item was omitted by accident, and that is the code amendment for marijuana businesses in the village. That was probably sent to you in early December, or after the last meeting. Are there any other amendments or changes? Hearing none, would appreciate a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I second that motion.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Council received the treasurer's report. Are there any questions on that? If none, motion to receive and file the report would be in order.
I make a motion that we receive and file the treasurer's report.
And I'll second that.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, or we do a roll call on that, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
I apologize, I think I'm losing my voice, so if you can't hear, yell. I'm also going deaf. Accounts payable. Council has before it the bills for the month of December. Are there any questions, changes, or corrections? If none, a motion to approve the bills would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $5,946.49 from general, $1,956.03 for the major, $600 for local, and nothing for Mill Park Recreation.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call to pay the bills, please?
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Okay. This time in the meeting, we offer an opportunity for the public to address the village council. You will have an opportunity to address items that are on the agenda. If you have another topic, we ask you to be brief and to the point, and we try to limit comments to 5 minutes, if at all possible. With that, does anybody care to address the council?
I have one thing.
Yes.
when is the road scheduled for any patching? There's a,
Which road?
what, down, there's
Yeah.
a pothole down the, kind of in front of
I saw it today. Yeah, Don has been going out sporadically when the weather and the permits and doing it, but I will make a note of it. I did notice.
It's small now. If you
Yeah.
catch it early, it won't get bigger.
Right. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did we do anything with the curbing of the sidewalks that we had discussed at 2 meetings prior? Has anything came about with that?
We sent in the application.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've notified the county that that's our intent
Okay.
for our block grant funds. We won't get a response
We
till
just
June,
got a response last week from last year's.
Okay.
so it takes time. Okay, are there any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on then to the new business.
We have one more, sorry, Mike.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, Mr. Verse.
Last month, Mr. Rathberg was here, and he recommended that the village appoint a committee this summer to discuss and do research on the sewer situation. I would like to recommend that before we do that, somebody get in touch with the health department and figure out what's actually going on over there. Because I don't think they know. And
Over where, John?
Rathberg property. It's been my experience that typically when somebody has a drain field problem or septic problem, the health department gets involved and determines what goes on. I know of 4 engineered septic fields that have been put in the village, and in neither one of those instances was the village council involved. It was all done through the health department. And part of one of the problems that we have is there's quite a few 50-foot lots in the downtown village area, and obviously there's not a lot of room to do things. Back when I was running the DPW, the Water Resource Commission came out and did a dye test on this building and also Mr. Rathberg's building, and both of them failed the dye test. And what the dye test consists of is they put dye in the toilets and the drains off the sinks and whatever, and then they check to see where that shows up. And in both cases, it showed up being in the drain that runs along the alley and then comes out onto Forest Street and runs down and goes down to Leonard Drain. At that time, the Water Resource Commission representative suggested that they dig up in the back of the village hall here and find out where it was coming from. And it was determined that there was a part of the tile field was hooked up to the drain in the back there. The same thing applied to the barbershop building. Their septic field was tied directly into the drain out in front. It ran along. The drain went out to the sewer to the went along between the fire hall and the old bakery and attached to the drain out in front. At that time, they disconnected the sewage line, the tile field from here and also from Mr. Rathberg's building, so that water could no longer get into the drain, which was a direct violation of letting affluent from the septic tanks run into the public drain. Since that time, Mr. Rathberg has put in either a dry well or a cesspool behind the barber shop. I'd be willing to bet you $1 to a donut that the health department was not involved in that. And typically when you do something like that, you get, the health department comes out and assesses the situation and recommends a way to solve it. I'd be willing to bet if you contacted the health department, there was no inspection nor recommendation of what went on behind the barber shop over there. If it needs if it needs an engineered field out back there, then the health department would determine the size of it and what the ramifications would be. The way I understand it is the health department's not gonna shut down either a residence or a commercial building predicated on a problem with a septic system. They may recommend improvements to rectify the situation depending on the number of people that use it, et cetera, and so on. As far as a dry well or a cesspool that I mentioned earlier, a dry well is typically a hole in the ground that you put pea gravel in. It's used to disperse typically rainwater, like stuff off of gutters and things like that. There's no means for treating sewage effluent that runs into a dry well. A cesspool, if it's designed properly, can deal with the effluent from a septic field. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think that before we even get involved in a discussion about sewers, which is going to affect everybody in the village because we're all going to have to pay for it. I remember a number of years ago, my cousin lives in Pennsylvania, lived in a township, and they decided to put sanitary sewer and water down in front of his house, and the fees that he had to pay for that were predicated on the distance of his frontage. The reason that they did sewer and water is because once you put a sewer system in, you have to have some way of supporting that financially. And typically what's done is they will assess your payments on the sewer system, sewer usage, based on how much water you use. There's a certain percentage of whatever their formula is that they can assume that goes into the sewer system. Obviously, we're not going to put sewer and water in at the same time, but if we do proceed with the sewer system, there's going to have to be some provisions made to deal with it, whether it's a village septic tank, which was suggested by the Water Resource Committee, a village septic tank, which is different than a regular sewage treatment plant. Even if we put a village septic tank in, there's going to be involved, obviously, the purchase of property. There's going to be the cost of running the pipes to it from the downtown area down to wherever it's going to be, and I don't even know where it would end up with. But even a village septic system is going to have some means of financial provisions for the support of it, because you have to pump sludge out of it periodically. How often that is going to be, I don't know.
Well, we have, are you almost done, or?
Pardon me?
Are you almost done speaking, or have you
Yes.
still got further points?
No, that's good.
Council has heard previously, both from Water Resources Commission and our consulting engineer, and we're at the stage where, in my estimation, the village isn't ready to commit to a sewer study until we have a reasonable idea of how many people are for it and how many people are against it. Because it's not my intention, and I don't think it's the council's intention, to force an expensive system and spread the cost against everybody in the village, particularly if they don't need it. So the purpose of the study would be to determine that. But before we even go that far, as you point out, in one instance, there are property owners that would benefit much more from the system than others. So I don't think we want to, and I'm taking the liberty of speaking for the council, but I don't think we want to railroad a system in before we know the public supports it, much like Ortonville has tried to do it several times and haven't been able to pass a millage. And the answer could be something like you suggest, a community system or whatever for a smaller area. But that would be borne by the users, not by the entire village. But we can't do that until we know the sentiments or the will of the people on that. So we're in the process of doing that, and as part of our budget discussions, that is part of our discussion.
one step before that would be getting the health department involved, because they're the ones who are ultimately going to determine what's needed specifically on those two buildings at the four corners.
Well, I can't speak for the health department, but all I can say is that the village doesn't call the health department unless there's a public health concern. And the last times that the drains in the village have been tested for excess E. coli, et cetera, has been determined that there is no illegal tap-ins anymore. However, there are high water levels that cause some septics in the village to fill up, and so there may be some contamination for that reason. But it's not everybody downtown, and some of them are actually outside of the downtown area. But they're spot problems, they're not addressed by an entire system necessarily. Like you say, those property owners would have to deal with it with the Water Resources Commission. So, yes.
Isn't there a sewer drainage problem right here within all the businesses though? I mean, like a problem.
Well, Rowland Hall, for instance, is not open for public use for private parties, et cetera, because we have to pump our septic tank 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year. Depends on how much use it sees and what the water table does. I expect the same. That was a problem with the small store next door. They just have a tank and they didn't want to spend the money to pump it to stay in business, so they quit doing business. I can't speak for anybody else. But it is, yes, it makes a big difference. The question is, does everybody in the village want to pay for a system? That's really what we have to determine, yes.
Is there anything that Ortonville can share on their size village and what they expected and kind of
Yeah,
compare?
they have a much different situation in that they're a much larger village, many more residential uses.
But can we scale that to monetarily, or does it make,
Well,
is there anything to
I think
compare?
it's more a matter of public mindset. The people out there are kind of in the same position. There's lots of acreage parcels around the inner downtown area. Not everybody needs the treatment. And so it's been a rough. They've had two millage elections in the last 10 years that both failed. And they've been told by the Water Resources Commission since, I think back in the late 80s and early 90s, that they needed to do this. But as Mr. Verse indicated, the Water Resources Commission will push to a point, but when it comes to actually stopping someone from using their property or whatever, they kind of draw a line. So we're not in the business of doing that, but it's in our interest to make sure there's a health and safety standard for the village, and we would like to see more business and more
I mean,
activity.
is there something that you can limit to just the downtown business area that maybe 25 years from now could expand out? I mean, just to,
Well, I don't know.
just this downtown, just the businesses, not necessarily residential.
It would mean that we would, well, I would have to explore that further, but it would mean that we would have to force,
The businesses.
well, the problem is that there's always benefit to adjacent properties. And so it's a really tricky situation. And that's one of the things that the study could help us discover.
Right.
But
I mean, it would be a start.
I agree.
Something that eventually, like I said, 20 years from now, if they wanted to put sewer systems in, they have a base.
Yeah, depending on the system though. If you
Right.
have to have a treatment plant, that's not cheap right there. And then you have to have real estate for the treatment plant.
I think the
Plus,
study's a great idea.
I agree, but before we spend the money, we need to know if there's enough residents that want to proceed with that. It's not like our budget is so fat that we can just go out and spend
I would be
20.
interested to know if you could just do the businesses downtown.
Those type of systems don't scale that well, so you have to specifically size them for your application. be really hard to say this is what we need today and then in 25 years. You
I
end
know,
up,
but I mean, even if you just did the businesses downtown, opposed to not doing anything.
Well, I'm not sure that the cost-benefit ratio is good enough. If it costs $1 million to put in piping, a treatment facility, and a field or lagoons or whatever, we've come full circle.
Right, if it costs 50,000 and you're able to put a couple businesses in, you make it, you know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely
I mean,
right, and that
it
was
would-
one of,
It would pay for itself.
that was one of the points that the village consulting engineer made, was it's a possibility. It has been done, but it depends on the geography and the nature of the situation.
I mean, maybe not necessarily branch out to the residents at this point. Just something that would
That's-
allow our vacant buildings to fill with businesses.
It'd be nice on both ways too, though, just.
Yeah, to see what it would be to
Businesses
do a
and
village.
You know, your homes, because as the houses are getting older and the septic's getting older, you need to do it for everything.
Yeah, maybe.
What it costs for an engineered field, you know, as opposed to ground, it's sometimes cheaper. So,
Right.
There's nothing stopping the business from putting in their own field right now. Replace.
Well, yeah, there are systems, they call them package treatment systems. They're very expensive, between $35,000 and $50,000 that they use around the lakes. Addison Township, there's probably 30 of them on Lakeville Lake because the lots, it's the same situation. They had small lots for summer cabins that had, outdoor privies. And since that time, they buried, some of those places put 50 feet of tile in the ground with a small tank, and that was their seasonal use, and then it became a full, all 4 seasons, not just 1 or 2. So they're faced with the same problem. So you're absolutely right, Michelle. There is alternatives out there that don't have to be borne by the village or the village residents, but we can't force a private property owner to do it. Water Resources Commission can, if they're so inclined.
Right.
Could we do a mailer out to the residents here?
We
to find
talked about
out
that.
Like a survey?
a survey to find out who would be for it and who would be opposed. This way they can return it back to us, and then we can go from there.
It's a good idea.
With the tax bills.
Yeah, we had talked about it in the past. I don't think we have anything going out anytime soon, do we, Judy? As far as, so we could do an individual mailing. We've done that before. Means a lot of stickers for Judy.
But maybe if we could do something like that, that might,
Well, the problem with that is when you send that out, there's always a large percentage you never get back.
right, but we can at least.
But we'll have done it.
But we'll have done it, we'll have said that we've stopped, we've reached out to everybody, and now it's up to the residents to reach back to us.
Mr. Burse.
I'm gonna back up a little bit. When I was talking about the health department, what do you suppose the response would be if the health department was advised that Mr. Rasberg did put in either a dry well or a cesspool behind his building without having it inspected or even planned for by the health department, which is the agency that's in charge of doing that? Water Resource Commission gets involved when sewage and effluent gets disposed of in a public drain, which here, all water goes down to Lakeville Lake. What I'm talking about is if I would be willing to testify that I saw Mr. Rasberg have a load of pea gravel dumped behind his building in a hole that he excavated. What he did with that, I don't know, but
Well, John, I don't have that kind of knowledge. I'm not aware of when or if he's done that, and I don't know if anybody on the council is, but if you can take it to the health department and make a complaint about it if you like. I can't make an allegation if I don't have jurisdiction, and we don't have jurisdiction over the health department.
well, it would seem to be, well, one of the basic premises with a commercial building is the building owner cannot do work on the building by himself. He has to have a contractor do electrical work, plumbing work. Same thing applies to sewage. And what I can tell you is I can testify and show you where he dumped pea gravel in there to make either a cesspool or a dry well.
John, that may well be, but as I said, that's not something that I can allege because I have no knowledge of it. And I don't even know that he did or didn't have a permit, et cetera, or when it happened. So, as I said, feel free to contact them. Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Michigan Municipal League Defense Fund. We are members of the Michigan Municipal League, and we pay yearly dues to belong to that organization. However, that organization also has the Michigan Municipal Defense Fund, which is a fund that they use to assist communities that have particularly widespread effects. In other words, if there's a law like the marijuana law or the zoning laws that are changed by the legislature, if there's a statewide problem and one community has run afoul of the problem, being a member of the defense fund allows them to come in and they can file an amicus curiae brief that would support the position of the community, as well as their legal assistance is involved as well. So I believe the amount's $364, and we have always done it, and we have used it in the past. So I would recommend to the council that we approve the $364 for the legal defense fund. We do budget for it, by the way, so.
I make a motion that we pay the Michigan Municipal League dues,
It's a legal defense fund.
legal defense fund.
Legal
I
defense
thought they
is
were both
50.
in there.
Oh, okay.
Michigan, the dues are.
Okay, you're right.
50.
It's both, it's total.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion by Mrs. Sotheby for $364 for Michigan Municipal League Defense Fund and dues.
I second that.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call on that, please, for approval?
President McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Swack,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy.
Yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Council, some of the residents will recognize some new faces on the village council. As of December, we've had two new trustees, Trustee Jennifer Swack and Trustee Jennifer Arundel. And as part of their commitment to the village, and the rest of the trustees and myself, we participate in certain committees or commission appointments. So I want to thank our new trustees and our prior trustees for their cooperation. And I'd like to recommend to the village council that Trustee Arundel be appointed to the decorating committee as council liaison and also as the alternate member to the cable commission. I'd appreciate a motion and a support for that appointment.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the appointments as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay, I would also like to recommend that Trustee Swack be appointed to the Planning Commission as the liaison village council member to that important commission. Was there an alternate, Jennifer? That was
What do you need?
Pardon?
Whatever you needed.
Yeah, I don't think I have
I thought there
anything.
was one, but I'll check the last one.
So I would ask for a motion and support to appoint Trustee Swack to that position as planning commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to second that.
A motion and a support, second, are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to appoint Trustee Swack to the planning commission, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. And just for, to fill out the picture, trustee Kennedy will continue as the street superintendent and as the alternate to the Pollyant Trailway Management Council. And trustee Sotheby will continue as a member of the Cable Commission. I will continue with the Pollyant Trail Management Council as well as the North Oakland Transportation Authority representative, and then the Christmas in Action liaison for the village. And trustee Verse is also active with Oxford Addison Youth Assistance and has represented the village capably in that area as well. So I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to you folks for pitching in. It really does help. Okay, moving on. The Society for the Preservation of Old Mills. Village has been a member for a number of years. I'm not sure what the fund fee is for that this year. $50.
Yep.
What is the pleasure of the council? Do we wish to maintain our membership or pass on it?
Only if we're going to make use of it. And I say that not being ornery, I just mean there are funds available that we're able to tap into if we apply for, and that's the only reason I can see being a member at this point.
What is this in the bill? I didn't hear.
When the village acquired the mill, we learned that there was an organization that's nationwide that is tries to protect and preserve old mills. And trustee Sotheby, and I think, somebody else go?
Judy?
Judy went to one of their meetings that was held locally.
It was a 2-day event that we went
Right.
to.
And it basically gives you an inside path to private funding and funding actually through that organization for certain activities for the mill. And in the past, we've decided that it was worth the expense to have that option, but as trustee Sotheby indicated, we haven't. Pardon?
Did you ever take advantage of being a member? As far as the.
Just for the background and the knowledge, no.
Nothing for the
I've
financial?
never applied for anything financially.
How
I'm
long
not
have
that
you been-
familiar.
How long have you been a member?
Since 2014 or 15.
15, I think.
15.
I don't know if it's been that long.
It's 50.
So, yeah. It's discretionary, obviously. So what's, the council can,
Well, the budgeting would come out of the mill fund anyways, correct? Because we have a separate account for the mill park and recreation, so it would come from that, right?
well, I think we've always used the dues, the
Out of the
village,
general fund. It's always come out
our
of the
general fund dues for organizations and conventions and stuff like that, so. But it certainly could be used for that.
I think the smallest grant is $200 and the max is like $2,000. Those are given yearly.
Okay,
Is
well,
there any downside to not joining it this year? If we were to come back, would it still be available next year?
oh yeah, it's strictly voluntary.
Is anyone willing to apply for a grant? That would
Well,
be
I've
the
applied for a
question.
number of different
I
grants,
mean, with just that.
but never through that organization.
Have we tried,
just
have we
that.
tried applying in the past? I think it's where Michelle's getting at.
From
Through
them?
the-
No, not from Spoon.
Could we try this year and see what happens and pay the
I mean, that
$50?
would make more sense if somebody's willing to try to
Right.
get the grants.
Yeah, I don't know why I haven't in the past, but
Maybe been busy.
just, pardon?
Maybe busy.
Yeah. What is that? Well, if we join, I will explore applying. If we don't join, obviously I won't. So
Are you the only one that can apply though? Can somebody else?
no, but sometimes the president kind of has his finger in all the pies, so I probably know as much as anybody about it, except for Shar. I defer to Shar. But,
I guess I'd like to make a motion to allot $50 to continue our membership to SPOOM.
I second that.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda was the item I added regarding the code amendment to our code of ordinances. This amendment is recommended by our village attorney and myself because with the approval in November of the recreational marijuana laws, the Public Act and the law require that if a community does not respond within a certain time frame, that it is possible for a property owner to request from the village and the village planning commission the right to have a marijuana establishment in the village. At this point in time, I want to remind everybody that we're not saying that marijuana is outlawed in the village of Leonard. It's strictly that it will not be sold, manufactured, etc., within the village limits. I should also add that the sheriff of Oakland County recommends that the county communities do this as well. So basically, the code amendment would state that no marijuana establishments in the village of Leonard they're prohibited and on any and all establishments within the boundaries of the village pursuant to initiated law 1 of 2018, as may be amended. So again, I'm recommending to the council that we can adopt this, and at a later date, if we want to take another look at it, we can do that. It does not lock us in. But at this point in time, I think it is the prudent and safest bet for our community to adopt this amendment.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this ordinance number 1.001.
Thank you. Which amends chapter 27 of our code of ordinances.
It doesn't say that on here. If I read down the next,
Purpose.
yeah, okay.
Okay, just so that everybody would understand it. Okay, is there a second?
You can't profit off of this.
I second that.
I'm just trying, so you're saying you just can't make a profit. If somebody in their home wants to grow marijuana, they can do that. They can't sell it.
You cannot,
Not that ever grow
this is,
marijuana.
it's talking about a business.
Just a business.
Whatever the
Yeah.
definition of business is.
No profit. Okay.
I can't agree or disagree, Michelle, because I don't make that call.
I'm not growing pot, but I'm just,
So we had,
if my neighbor's are growing pot, I might question it.
or get closer, or further. Okay, we had a motion by trustee Sotheby and a second by trustee Arundel. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please, for adoption?
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Thank you, the motion carried. Okay. This is the fun part of the meeting. Under old business, we're going to discuss our plans for our 2019-2020 budget, which will also include, before we're done, we should authorize a public hearing to be held at our next meeting in February regarding truth in taxation and millage. But council has received the proposed budget for 2019 and 2020. Notable in it is the fact that it pretty much mirrors our current expense levels and income levels in virtually all categories. I was able to increase in the general fund. I was able to put $500 additional into the decorating committee, making a total of $1,500. And I also did not include the expense of the sewer study until the rest of the trustees had an opportunity to weigh in on it. And as I said, I mentioned earlier, until, in all likelihood, we would have to use money that isn't shown here, but would be in our carryover from the prior year in order to do any of that fund, in order to fund a study of that expense. And to do that, before we did that, we would have to look and see if we are meeting the budgetary guidelines of the state regarding, they pretty much recommend and enforce that you have about 15% for a rainy day fund. That's what we know it as, in case something comes up unexpected in the village. But, you know, a shortfall in property taxes due to a change in law, I mean, there's any number of things that could affect the amount of money. Revenue sharing could decline. There are things that could affect our budget.
Mike?
Yes.
Just to be clear, because I know the decorating committee put in a request for an increase up to $3,000.
Right.
And that was really to replace the banners outside so they can
Replace
change
that.
them.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that it was to replace.
Yeah, to add, we would like to, I even brought some of our estimates. It's not an all-time increase, it's just we would like to be able to interchange all the banner flags that are out there and leave them up all year. They only have Christmas ones, the strawberry ones don't fit, they're smaller, much smaller. But we had gotten we've gotten bids on them, I brought one of them with me today, obviously we would get more bids. But this one that we had was the lowest one at $1,400 for 10 banners. And so it was a one-time increase that we were kind of looking for to be able to change out the 10 banners that are on the
Right.
wall instead of not having them up other than just Christmas.
Well, could we get by? I don't know.
One set of 10 was $1,400 on our lowest bid.
Your only bid.
She has more than one. She gave me the lowest.
Okay.
She just emailed it to me so I could print and bring it because she's at the fundraiser for the school tonight.
Okay.
Where did you get your bids from?
The one that she emailed me was a Signorama, but she had got them from other places as well.
Okay.
Like I said, she emailed me the lowest of them all. And we would obviously present all of them at the time of making the purchase. We just wanted to say this is the lowest cost we have to get 10 of the banner flags. And I mean, I have a couple copies here if you guys want to look at what was priced out.
I know that before, the cheapest ones, and I don't know about quality, was from a company in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And it was banners something.
Yeah, I don't know if she might have done like a banners.
And I found that
I don't think it
number
was in Kalamazoo, though.
through the Michigan Municipal League.
These were at $135 a foot. And they are 24 by 72. And that's what they're large. That's what our Christmas flags are now.
Okay.
And what we would like to do is leave those up all year, have something more spring and then something fall, and then summer, we'll have the flags, you know, the regular flags.
Okay.
I mean, eventually, maybe years down the road, add more, but spring and fall would be nice.
Well, yeah, effectively right now, you, I designated 900 for beautification and 600, which is for labor in case it's
Right.
needed. Now this year, except for taking down the lights, the lamps, you know, on the four corners, you guys did everything,
Yeah.
which really saved a lot of money. So, but I'll defer to the council. What's the pleasure of the council? Judy, I don't know, I don't see where I can take away from anything I have right now that I've suggested. Again, it kind of matters on where we end up in our budget in March, when we get our final accounting after we've paid everything through February.
I mean, I would just like that to be taken into consideration.
Right,
after.
well, we did. I mean, we do,
I know, I don't think it was communicated what we wanted to.
yeah. I think there were different interpretations.
Yeah.
Can you order some now out of your budget this year? and then turn around in March and order more?
As long as they would do the same price, because I think it was for a set of 10. This is where they were giving us that price. I can find out.
Maybe they can invoice you part now and part later.
Yeah, if you had them done, and if you
I
had it
don't know
done.
that we have much money left on our budget.
There's $600 out there.
So they could pay a portion of it. If they,
Is it, that runs till March 1st, is that correct?
You have to spend it by February 28th.
The last day of February, yeah.
And what size were they? 24
I
by
mean, if we
72?
paid for it.
24 by 72, I think you said.
Yeah, I don't know, as long as we paid them, the money's spent.
What he said.
Yeah, do a
Because you
deposit
have
for
to
the
expend
10.
that money, it
Right.
can't be just committed, it has to be expended in that budget
No,
year.
yeah,
Put a
we can
deposit.
order, put the deposit of 600 down, we could possibly order 10. Pay 600 out of this previous and the remainder out of next year's.
right.
Sound like a plan?
And then the following year, possibly get the next, we'd like to have 3 sets total, the Christmas and then 2 other seasons.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. And that's, so we don't have to amend what's here at this time. They can cover that.
Just so you gotta have the 3 bids.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And recommend it should, do we want to pass a motion to authorize, or can we wait till February?
You can do it now or do it then, it doesn't matter.
Would it be easier to do it now to authorize to go ahead? So that way, because
Yeah.
we're not meeting again until February and
Right.
it'll save us all time.
It'll, yeah, we would put a not to exceed amount for the total amount spent.
Yeah, like I said, our lowest bid was 1431 for 10 flags at 24
There's no tax on that,
by
right?
72.
That's
Oh, you
probably-
know what, they did add 81, we're tax exempt, they did.
Right.
20%. So it'd be 1350 without that.
Getting better already.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, is there a motion then to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,400
Yeah.
for the purposes of the decorating committee of purchasing banners for the community?
I will motion to allow them to spend up to $1,400 from the
And I'll second that
committee.
motion.
Sounds good.
It would just be nice to leave them up instead of taking all those brackets
I-
down.
But there are different qualities too. I
Yeah.
mean, if you lowball just to get a low price, you may not get the life out of it.
Yeah, Megan actually went and priced it, I mean.
I'd say Santarama is a good, they're a
she-
big company
She was pretty
too.
good at that stuff. That's why I let her get the prices, because she knew exactly the quality that was needed.
Megan Rayner,
Yeah,
her husband does signs.
yeah.
Got it.
Okay, what do we need to do?
Roll call.
Are we gonna put in there for budget 2018, 19, and 20? Where are we getting the $1,400?
600 out of
It's not
89.
1,400.
600 from this
Okay,
budget
so I
and the
think it needs
balance.
to go in the amendment,
Alright.
And if we need,
the motion.
and what, and if, yeah, there's been a motion in a second to make the purchase. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, please?
President McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Sotheby?
Yes.
Mrs. Arundel?
Yes.
Mrs. Swack?
Yes.
Okay, motion's approved. Just get Judy the bids or the quotes. And she'll also,
She was gonna get a few others as well. I'll have her look at a place in Kalamazoo to find out. I'll mention it to her.
But just
make sure-
remember, we have to have this paid out.
By
by-
February,
Yeah.
yeah.
and Judy can give you the tax exempt form
Yeah.
and the check when it's needed, so. Okay, we're back to another aspect of the budget. Okay, so I guess at this time, I'd like to ask the council members if they have any questions or suggestions for the budget.
I just wanted to check, I believe it was in the last month's meeting minutes, we discussed that the price of salt has doubled. And for 2018, 2019, we have 6,000, and for 2019, 2020, we have 6,000. Are we gonna be able to hold to that?
Well, that's my hope. We've had winters where we had to obtain more, but what are you thinking, Judy?
Well, so far it's held out.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did we go on?
Have we,
You know, we're pushing the envelope off the table here.
didn't we just get a
We just got a bill.
And how much was it, you remember, for
It was
salt?
a little under $500.
So we're about $4,000 for the year then? Because I think under total, we're at 3441 if we had another 500, but, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it push comes to shove, you know, we do make amendments kind of on a rolling basis as we need. When we adopt the budget, we generally adopt it by fund and functional category, not by line item. So that when you see there's building and grounds, that total amount for that, for all of those items cannot exceed what we budgeted. But that doesn't mean that we can still spend a little more out of one if we amend a different one to balance it. Or use outside money such as account reserves, which we do not want to do if we can help it. That's usually reserved for real emergencies, so. Okay, so you good, Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
Anybody else? Okay, well, if anything, if after you've had a further opportunity to review it, if you have any questions or need information, please feel free to contact me or Judy. And the only thing we need to do now is pass a motion to hold a truth and taxation hearing at our next meeting for the purpose of the property taxes for the village and the millage. And just, it hasn't been touched on, but our millage is staying the same. It's going to remain at 7 mils. And if anybody else is curious, the maximum for a village is 12.5 mils. So we've stayed significantly under it, but we do that by being very thrifty. I mean, try not to spend money where we don't have to, so. Okay. Is there a motion then for the truth and taxation hearing at the next meeting?
I so move.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. DPW. There's nothing major to report. But other than we do have a pothole. And we got a couple we still have a couple sign issues. We've got to order a sign for up on East Street in front of that residence. And I said,
And also over in front of the school there, we need to get that drain vacuum truck.
yeah,
Because it's been,
Don-
specifically with the weather the way it's been lately, yeah, and that is backed up over the crown of the road multiple times.
Yes.
recently?
Yeah,
It was just
throughout
like
December.
that.
Yeah, I was afraid that it might be too late, but I'll ask Don to,
I mean, it might be too late now that it's frozen back over again,
It
but
turns into a whole solid sheet of ice on the road and all the way up that driveway.
yeah,
Quite scary.
and probably the sidewalk is there's 3-4 inches of water on the sidewalk down there.
right, I'll get with Don on that.
What was ever determined with the?
Yeah, the
fence
sign.
and stuff next to the school?
With
Did they-
what?
The parking in front of his house.
Well,
What was the result?
we've looked at signs, and I think the approval was for no parking during half hour before school hours until a half hour after school
Okay.
hours.
And then any other time you can park in front of
Right,
the house.
right, in front of that residence.
Oh, in front of,
Yeah,
right, got it.
yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
okay with the homeowner.
Pardon?
And that satisfies the homeowner's concern,
I'm
correct?
Yeah, that was
I thought
understood.
he was the one that got the ticket, so.
It was, I guess, an inmate or
Yeah,
visit.
Still, it was his friend or
It
something.
was on a weekend too. So he just
Okay, so
wanted-
that was a complete no parking sign. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay,
Oh, question.
yes, sir.
Were you just talking about the drain down East Street in Elmwood? One of the problems that exists with that is the foundation for that drain is square. And the lid that's on it will not accommodate any amount of water flow through there. From the street down into the drain. That's been a bone of contention for a long time. Had the same, when I worked with DPW, we had the same problem with the drain down by the west side of the school entrance, going up at the elementary school. In order to rectify that, we had to dig down in the drain, the square portion of the drain structure. And I forget how many, they're like 6 or 8 feet. But then at that point, they put in curved brick, which is typically what you use to make a crock with. When you have a curved brick, you can make it cylindrical, plus you can make it tapered. And then you bring it up to the height that you want it, and you put a regular catch basin lid on it, rather than, if memory serves right, the only thing down there in East Street is a square piece of steel with slots in it.
We're talking about the drain that's immediately west of the school driveway.
As you go up to the school, up in the driveway.
As you turn into the
Yes,
school
on East
driveway.
Street. I'm telling you what experience I had with the drain at the east, on the west side of the driveway going to the parking lot.
That's the one we're discussing.
The council,
There's a problem there.
the council authorized enough money for the Vector truck to come, John, and it's just been a matter for Don of getting it scheduled. So I will get with him again. Thank you for the information. Okay. For the President's report, I received no Freedom of Information Act requests. And I have also not received any block grant applications, and ordinance enforcement is no new activity on that. We move on to the trustee committee reports for the summer festival.
We had a meeting last Monday, and they, the Derby has decided, because of the parent input, has decided that they do want to run the race on Sunday from 1 to 5, the day after the festival, from 1 to 5. This is from all parents that say their kid would do it if they didn't have to take away the whole day of the festival, because the kids like to do other things too. So they're just hoping that that would work out, instead of closing that road from, you know, on the festival day, close it on Sunday from 1 to 5.
We'll make that determination probably in May or June. What, you know,
Okay, so when
we'll
they-
revisit it.
Okay, can they put out the application, because they do the applications now?
Yeah, were there any conditions that we wanted to consider as far as letting the route? Are you gonna have the flyers or anything to let residents know?
Yeah, they would hand out a flyer that says this, and then I would have Radford put it on the sign also.
Sounds good.
Yeah, they would take flyers to all the people,
All 5 of us.
all 5 of us. Well, they would also get on Rosie Drive.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so can I authorize them to put the date of Sunday and from 1 to 5?
Well, we're not gonna formally make the road closure at this time, but is there any objection from the council? That I don't foresee a problem with that.
Yeah, because see, they start putting the applications out in February, so that people can start, it takes a while to build those cars.
Yeah, I don't see any
You can
problem.
build one in a week.
Yeah.
You just work a lot.
Good luck finding a soapbox anymore there.
So are you
Doesn't-
planning, oh, sorry, are you planning to have the road closed Saturday and Sunday then, or
No,
just
not-
Sunday?
Just Sunday.
Okay,
That
just
part
wanna
would
make sure.
only be Sunday, it wouldn't be Saturday at all.
Okay.
Which would probably help the traffic flow for the,
It would probably help, because a lot of
Parking
people
and
park
traffic.
that way,
Yeah.
and we cut off all that parking on Saturday too, so
yep.
it might be better that way. But they said they could probably have more participants if they do it on Sunday, because these kids are complaining, because they spend their whole, 1 to 5 up there, and all this stuff closes down here for the kids at 5.
I don't have a problem trying it, making
Yeah,
it,
if it works, it works, if it doesn't,
It'll work.
they can go back to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
But other than that, we're good, everything's going fine.
Good, thank you. Cable Commission, anything new?
No meeting.
Okay. Decorating Committee? Have we-
One little thing is, when we need access to things, is there a key of some sort? Like, I want to come in and take that down, but that goes in that building, like, how do we gain
Right.
access to this, to get this taken?
I guess just, would it be in the evening, or
Evening or Sunday, when we get an eye in?
just give me a call, Michelle, and
What
I'll...
we do is kind of message out like, hey, who wants to volunteer and help? And then we usually get a small handful of people that all come do it, and it's done quick.
Okay,
But it's just kind of when they can do it.
well, include me on the,
Okay.
and if, so I know what's going on.
Okay.
If I can't do it, I'll make arrangements for you to get the keys.
Okay.
Also, Michelle, I need a list of, well, talk to me after the meeting.
Okay.
All right. North Oakland Transportation Authority, there's a meeting next week. I don't think there's anything, we didn't have meetings in December or January, so, or December and in December. So there's nothing new that I'm aware of. Planning Commission, we don't have any business to go before them, do we? Judy?
I don't have anything.
Leslie?
Just our meeting in February.
Okay. So we're going to cancel the January meeting, and we'll have, the Planning Commission will have the public hearing for the master plan in February. So is there a motion then to cancel the Planning Commission meeting for January?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of canceling the January Planning Commission meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Okay. Pollyant Trail Management Council, we've got a meeting this Wednesday. We have a new chairperson. Other than that, I don't think there's going to be anything major going on. A couple of events, but I don't think they're going to reach Leonard, so we'll see what happens. Village Park, nothing. We just had a meeting, yeah.
Well, we talked about the 5-year plan, but nothing's,
Right.
no work days going on.
And then council should have received the Community Development Block Grant fund in their packet. Should just shows our current status with the funds. And you'll also notice in your budget that the amount has been amended for 2019, 2020 based on our expenditures and income. Okay, with that, I have nothing else. Does the council have anything else it wishes to bring before?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending.